What's up, everybody? Wes Hockwitz here from Sao Paulo, Brazil for another edition of Packers Preview, joined alongside my colleague at Packers.com, Mike Spofford. We are here for the next 10 to 15 minutes to answer all of your questions regarding the Green Bay Packers opener against the Philadelphia Eagles. 7:15 p.m. Central start time, 9:15 local. Look forward to that one tomorrow night. You and I are going to be crabby on the way home.
Yeah, that's a long
plane ride.
That's a long time to wait till kickoff tomorrow with this time zone.
Game will be played at Arena Corinthians. And Michael, you and I on YouTube and Facebook answering all of your Packers questions there. You can ship those to our social department. Our social department will send them into this phone right here, and we will bounce them off of Mike Spofford. Before we jump into that, though, we did get the Packers injury report moments ago. We know 3 players will be questionable for this one against the Eagles. That includes both Marshawn Lloyd and Emmanuel Wilson, the 2 running backs. Wilson, dealing with the hip injury, was limited today, and Lloyd, dealing with the hamstring, was also limited. And then Tucker Kraft, who yesterday was added to the injury report with a back injury, he was limited as well. 2 positions, Michael, where the Green Bay Packers are not overly deep, just basically out of attrition right now. 3 tight ends on the roster, period, including the practice squad. And then at the running back position, Josh Jacobs was going to be the bell cow, but certainly you're going to need Lloyd and Wilson as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't you know it, the 2 positions that where the Packers were really hit with injuries in training camp and in the preseason are the 2 positions that are still on the injury report here in week 1. So we'll see. Obviously, all those guys have a chance to be available. Nobody's been ruled out yet. But yeah, you mentioned it. Josh Jacobs, this will be his Packers debut. Big free agent acquisition. Coming in, replacing Aaron Jones. He's going to get, regardless of what happens, I think, with regard to those guys on the injury report, Josh Jacobs is going to be a big part of this game on Friday night.
YouTubers, just Z's, said surprised the Packers didn't sign Wes when A.J. Dillon got injured. Wes is an offensive lineman, not a running back. That's the one big difference in that equation. But certainly A.J. Dillon, that is a huge loss for Green Bay. We talked about it all week because of all the things that he adds to this offense, in addition to just running the football, pass protection, as a pass catcher. Matt LaFleur even mentioned it. The way they were kind of planning to open up the box with him this season, that kind of went away. You do feel good about the options. I wrote about it in Inbox this week. If Lloyd and Wilson are available, those are 2 really strong options for Green Bay. But it just comes down to them being out there for them with Green Bay and what this depth chart looks like at the running back position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, A.J. Dillon was the running back with the most experience in Matt LaFleur's offense and in this Packers offensive system. And to lose him is a big blow. You mentioned all those things he did, as well as being a no-huddle and 2-minute back for Matt LaFleur and for Jordan Love. So that is a big loss for the Packers. We'll just have to see how it shakes out with regard to these injured guys. But Josh Jacobs is a guy who he can carry the load on a week-to-week basis. He's done that before in his career with the Raiders. He's still just 26 years old, not an over-the-hill running back by any stretch of the imagination. Josh Jacobs will be ready for whatever workload the Packers are going to give him Friday night.
Big Bend Benji on YouTube asks, any thought on what the rotation running backs might be if Lloyd and Wilson are not available? Why, hopefully, you would hope that at least one of them is, if not both. The Green Bay Packers do have options there. Ellis Merriweather is a guy that's been around for quite a while now, finished last year on Green Bay's practice squad. Right. I thought put together a really strong preseason, ended in a high note with how he performed in the finale. And then also on the other side of it, you bring in La'Mical Pirine, who's a guy that was a former 4th-round pick, brings a lot to the table as a runner, but trying to come in and play immediately, that might be a bit of a challenge.
Right, that's the thing. Merriweather is the guy who has more experience in Green Bay because of being here through the preseason and all the action that he got in those preseason games. Pirine is a guy who doesn't have the experience with the Packers, but he has the NFL experience, having been around, been through some of these games before. So those are certainly options for the Packers. They would much rather have Emmanuel Wilson, I think, in particular, as running as RB2 for this game if he's available, because he really is the next guy up behind Jacobs.
Couple more minutes here. Mike Spofford joined alongside Wes Hockwitz on Packers Preview. From Heather Stone, do we know who's starting on the offensive line? Really, there's only one question, and that is the right guard position. And Matt LaFleur said when he was asked about that earlier this week, they do have a plan with how they're going to proceed there. Rookie 1st-round pick, Jordan Morgan, performed very well, but then had the shoulder injury. And then Sean Ryan, I thought, really did a nice job once he replaced Morgan there during the latter half of camp. those would be the two options, one or the other, maybe both. We'll have to see what the Packers come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the back half of last season, the Packers had a rotation going at right guard between Jon Runyan and Sean Rhyan, and that was valuable experience for Sean Rhyan. And when that rotation was going on, the Packers offense didn't really miss a beat. It wasn't like you could tell whether Runyan was in there versus Rhyan. So it's something that they're considering with Rhyan and now Jordan Morgan. It'll be an interesting decision because Jordan Morgan had essentially moved ahead at the right guard spot and was looking like he would be the starter, but then the shoulder injury happens and he ended up not playing in any of the preseason games at all in terms of, full contact, full speed work. So we'll just have to see what Matt LaFleur and the coaches decide.
Last year, it was really interesting. They did the rotation with Jon Runyan and Sean Rhyan. I thought it worked out pretty dang well. I don't know if that is the way you want to build an offensive line, but for what Green Bay needed last season, did really well. Ryan proved that he could be a guard in this league, and Jon Runyan went and got rewarded with a big contract from the New York Giants.
And who knows, maybe that's the right answer right now because of Morgan having missed so much time during the preseason and during training camp, but they want to get the rookie first-round pick out there and get him going. Maybe a rotation is one way to do that.
All right, Todd Runge. Brazilian fans follow Packers or Eagles. It was interesting today also listening to Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love talk about that at the practice that we watched. Packers are hoping for a home game. The Eagles are hosting. The Packers are hoping for a home game. And judging by the fans that I've come across so far, I don't know if they'll be the majority, but they're definitely going to be energetic.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere in the stadium tomorrow night is going to be really, really special. I mean, I'm waiting to see what it's like. You and I hear in Insider Inbox from fans from all over the world. We get our fair share of submissions of emails from people in Brazil and in other countries in South America as well. I think there's going to be a pretty good showing of Packers fans at that stadium tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to it.
Supreme Steve asking on YouTube if there was any injury as far as Tucker Kraft in the back. Again, wait and see. We just found out about that yesterday as they were getting on the flight.
Presumably something that just tightened up on him in practice or something like that because we weren't aware of anything until he popped up on the injury report.
But man, I thought Tucker put together a good camp. Once he was back on the field, coming back from his injury, both him and Luke Musgrave together. If those two guys are on the field together this year, watch out.
Tucker Kraft, I thought, was the star of the joint practice against the Baltimore Ravens. I thought he was outstanding that day, catching passes from Jordan Love, getting all those reps that he got with the number one offense. After coming back, missing all that time in the spring and everything from the pectoral injury. By the end of training camp, Tucker Kraft was ready to go.
Joe Lappin on Facebook, which receiver will have the most fantasy points for Green Bay this week? You love these questions. Go ahead. You want both mics for that?
No, you can take this one.
You know what? This is what I love about this receiving core, though, and I don't want to give away any spoilers for Final Thoughts video that we shot a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
But, I put down, Christian Watson as my player on the rise, the player that was heating up. And the way that he came back and the way he attacked this thing has been so impressive. Obviously, he was a stand-up guy, co-winner last year, the way he deals with the media and everything, but it's the way that he has worked and put himself into this position. Because, yes, you can go to Madison, you can have the conversation and trying to balance out the hamstrings and everything. The motivation that he showed to find those answers, I'm just so excited for him in this season. He's your big play threat. You have Romeo Doubs, who I think is a big catch away at any moment, a good possession receiver that has only gotten better since he broke into the league. And then you Jaden Reed. Bo Melton can take the top off the defense. Dontavian Wicks was open all season long last year. Yeah. You ask which question, the question gets asked about who is the best chance for a fantasy football standout. I really don't know. Is it a points per reception league? Is it a touchdowns league? All these guys bring something different to the table. And listening to Bo Melton talk about this week and also Dontavian Wicks, that's what excites the Packers the most about this offense this year. They brought back everybody, and everybody is another year wiser.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the way I look at it. We've seen the Packers over the last 2 years because of Christian Watson's production, but then also his injury issues. We've seen the Packers have to constantly adjust things with him being in and out of the lineup. If Christian Watson can be on the field regularly, regardless of whether he goes on another touchdown binge like we've seen him do or making the big plays down the field or not, if he is out there every week, it's the opponent that is going to have to constantly adjust to what the Packers are doing, because Christian Watson is a threat, in my opinion, like no other, in terms of, the guy who keeps the defensive coordinators up at night in this very deep and talented receiving core, it's Watson.
All right, last 3 questions here, then we're going to call it a night. Joe from Facebook asked, will heat affect the game? Weather's been perfect.
Oh,
it has been incredible. You said it's going to heat up once we leave.
Yeah, the temperature is going to crank up after we're out of town, but yeah, the weather has been
It's air conditioning weather right now.
Yeah.
All right, back on YouTube, Xavier McKinney is used to playing Hurts twice a year. That should be an advantage for us.
That's an interesting one, because I've been thinking more about McKinney going against his old teammate Saquon Barkley and having to tackle his good friend, with his Packers debut tomorrow night, the other big free agent acquisition. But yeah, Xavier McKinney certainly no stranger to Jalen Hurts and what he brings as that dual threat guy. We saw it 2 years ago in Philadelphia when the Packers didn't contain Hurts, particularly in the first half of that game. They let him run wild. The Eagles had control of that game from start to finish. You can't let that happen, and it usually just comes down to making tackles in the open field against that guy, which is easier said than done.
Sean on Facebook, do you guys know which kind of jerseys the Packers are wearing tomorrow night? Home greens once again, which is funny. 3 of the first 4 games now in home greens, even though they've not been at home in any of those games. It's just the way it's worked out. I think it'll be cool for Green Bay. Honestly, I'm always a big fan of that. You can wear as much green as possible. It helps with the game program covers. Always pleased to see that.
I'll say this. I noticed it. I mean, I've noticed it when we've been in Dallas watching the Packers play games in Dallas over the years, and I noticed it in those 2 road preseason games this year. When the Packers are wearing their home greens on the road, it looks pretty cool.
It's pretty snazzy.
It is. It's sharp. They look good. Not to say that they don't look good in the whites, but when they're wearing their green on the road in a different stadium, there's a cool feel to it. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Before I ask you for your key to victory, I will once again mention the game on Peacock tomorrow, 7:15 p.m. Central Start Time. That is exclusively streaming on Peacock, unless you are in the Green Bay market or the Wisconsin market.
Yeah, Green Bay or Milwaukee area.
NBC 26 in Green Bay, TMJ4 in Milwaukee.
That's right.
Packers.com will also stream on the official Packers radio broadcast. And the Titletown Watch Party is also happening tomorrow night. James Jones in Titletown tomorrow night. Go check that out. The game will kick off 7:15 p.m. Central Start Time on the big screen. Fans can watch it off of Aaron's Hill. What better way? I told everybody, I was like, if I wasn't in Brazil, I'd be hanging out with JJ on Friday night.
Yeah, sit on the sledding hill, right? Nice. I mean, hopefully it's a nice, comfy, early September Friday evening in Green Bay. What a great place to watch the game.
Oguav6 said, the Packers have the best media team. You guys are great. Go Pack, go. I just want to mention that one just to get that out there. All right, Michael, close it off on this. Green Bay Packers, it is a fun game. It is a once-in-a-lifetime game. History will be made, but the Green Bay Packers, more importantly, are looking to come out of Sao Paulo, Brazil with a victory. What must happen on Friday night at Arena Corinthians for that to happen?
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to happen, but if I were to narrow it down to the one thing I'm watching for more than anything else, with this Packers offense, a plethora of weapons. You got guys all over the place. Josh Jacobs, to me, is the one who's the key. It's his Packers debut. The Packers are thin at running back going into this game. And Josh Jacobs is the guy who sets up the play-action pass, which is when Jordan Love and this offense is at its best. So, to me, get Josh Jacobs going. I'm not saying he has to rush for 125 yards, but get Josh Jacobs going, make the Eagles play this offense honestly, and I like what the Packers can do.
I also want to see him get a receiving touchdown.
Well,
I think
yeah,
that would be cool.
we got to have
the first time in a Packers uniform, if he could actually end up with his first receiving touchdown.
The first receiving touchdown of his career in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Why not?
For the Green Bay Packers. He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hockwitz. We thank you guys for joining us on Packers Preview from Brazil. Definitely a unique setup, but obviously also a unique opportunity. Until next time, for Mike, I'm Wes. We'll see you later.